down in BS1 with, what's your name, Nima?
Nima, yes.
And
Lana.
Lana. And just starting a few interviews basically with Bristolians and kind of exploring what's going on in Bristol at the moment.
Right.
And so, do you want to introduce yourselves first? What do you do?
Yeah. Well, my name's Nima. I'm a support worker, working in lots of the psychiatric wards in and around Bristol. I've been doing it for many years and have a real interest in working with people who are going through difficulties and trying to identify what supports and provisions that they have available in the city and really taking a radical approach to it as well. So, very much more interested in the community side, the humanistic side, than just the provisions of people being in hospitals. But it's a couple of days until Christmas, isn't it, here today? And we can see that we're in the shopping district with the big Christmas tree of Broadmead behind us, and all of the shoppers out in force as we could expect. And I just wanted to say that, as people of this city, is this for me? I come here and I feel a little bit uncomfortable about standing in front of the shopping things, and I think that's because I'm not sure if it represents really what I would hope to for Christmas. But,
so your area then is BS1. So you live in BS1, yeah.
And there are some great things going on as well for I think the Palestinian Museum just up the road is organising a Christmas lunch for all of the homeless people in the city. That's on Christmas Day.
Oh, brilliant.
So later on today we're going to go out flyering and delivering our posters to people.
Cool. And what's your name and where do you come from? What do you do?
I'm Lana Bell. I'm 18. I'm originally from South London but planning to move to Bristol. I'm the poetry editor of I'm Hip Hop magazine, which is really cool. It's a conscious youth mag based in London, but we're international, even in America, South America. And I do perform spoken word, and I've noticed a massive progressive and pedagogical scene in Bristol. It's very lively. There's more events that are free, whereas in London, most good events that are like hip hop, drum and bass, whatever you like, there's at least £5 entry fee.
Right.
So there's a lot more free in Bristol, and
So where are you from in London then? Where do you come from?
All over. Like I lived in Harrow, Brixton.
Yeah.
All over.
And what's the situation there, in your opinion?
In
London.
In socio-political terms, I think young people aren't represented properly. There are bases, there are musical hubs and spoken word hubs as a scene, but it's lacking life at the moment just because things cost money and programmes are being cut. The Arts Council is not getting a lot of money.
We were having a really interesting conversation last night, about what a youth-led community council could do and could offer young people of the city. And we thought about how, young people are under 18 aren't even given a vote in our society, as if their voices don't matter. And
there's not a base.
There's not a base, and for young people, I don't know. I remember being a teenager in Bristol, and really, like there's a real. Sometimes I feel like there's nowhere to go as a teenager, so people just go to each other's houses, and I would really like to see young people given a voice so that they can help shape this society more.
Sure.
And I think this idea of a youth-led community council, which Lana came up with last night, was absolutely brilliant.
Cool. So what does that involve then? Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah. A youth-led community organisation. It just involves young people becoming pioneers of their own movement, because we're told to look to all these, you could say, oldies in the scene and pioneers, but we're not really developing ourselves. We're focusing on other people, and I think there's a lot of schemes that the government are making, like Prince of Harry or Prince of Elizabeth.
Prince of Wales Trust.
Wales Trust.
Prince Wales Trust.
One of those.
Prince Wales Trust, and they're trying to build something just without taking into account that things already exist, ideas already exist, and they need to go to young people. They can't expect young people to go to them.
Sure.
They need to accommodate their needs.
Sure. So, do you both rent? What's your living situation at the moment?
So yeah, I'm
How much do you
renting.
pay and that sort of thing?
Right, yeah.
If that's okay, if you don't mind me asking.
Absolutely fine. I think it's it's a social issue, not a personal one, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm paying 350 quid with bills included to live in the centre of town. It's a great deal, just because the rent's cheap, and that's become quite a feature. It seems to me that rent prices have gone up considerably, and even in the last 12 months, I think about 20 to 25%. And I'm living in a place that doesn't have a living room, so that we don't have any shared space to
Communal
live.
space, yeah.
Don't have any communal space.
Yeah.
So I think that this is becoming more and more normal in that people are having to make do with turning living rooms into extra bedrooms.
I was hearing this yesterday actually. Someone was saying that they're paying £300 just to live on someone's sofa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's becoming quite, not just an occasional story I'm hearing, but actually quite often. Like people are happy to do that. Not because they want to, but because they feel they have to at the moment.
They have to, because wages aren't going up.
Yeah.
Unemployment opportunities aren't getting better, and yet house rent prices are going up considerably.
Yeah. So we're talking about housing and rent prices. What I'm also interested in is like how it affects us culturally as a city.
Yeah.
So, for example, if they're building student accommodation in BS1, 5-star luxury hotels in the centre of the city, and luxury abodes just down at the fountains, for example, it's kind of having an effect on the rent prices in the centre, which is then having an effect on the rent prices in BS2. That's St Paul's, BS5, Eastern, etc. And it's kind of having an effect, like a kind of concentric effect on the.
It is, and it
culturally, what do you think? Did you think that's had an
well,
effect?
I think that's an important aspect to the changes that are going on, and the other one is, of course, the interest in buying houses around here. So areas like Easton and Montpellier, many of the inner city areas that offer good transport access to town and to the industries on the outskirts of Bristol, are being, these houses are now being bought, and these neighbourhoods, the faces of these neighbourhoods are being changed, and definitely, what you're saying, that with thousands more students coming into the centre of Bristol, with the rent prices increasing, it's become more and more difficult, I think, for people who have communities that have lived in these areas for longer to stay here. And there are signs that neighbourhoods are changing. We've seen Stokescroft in recent years change a lot. And, I personally can't help but feel resistant to it, because I don't feel that these necessarily the communities that are coming in are necessarily here to contribute and build to the communities. I mean, the students that are moving in the student halls there, of course, they'll be here for 3 years. They'll drink in all of the bars. They'll eat in they'll buy food from the supermarket. So they'll help the corporate economy of the city.
But the independent and the cultural.
What's that?
And that's it. The independent culture, and yes, and the independent culture and the community life of this. And it's about that we need to preserve and grow in Bristol, because to me that's what makes this city quite special.
Yeah. So have you lived in Bristol all your life, or are you original Bristolian?
I've lived here since I was 13. I lived in just up Gloucester Road, and I used to go down to the bus station and get the bus up to Winterbourne every day, on the outskirts of Bristol. And I've lived here on and off for like 17, 20 years now.
20. See, time flies.
I've got 20 here.
That's my neighbour.
Oh, we're a church just up the road.
I see.
So we've just come out to give some free stuff and some hot drinks on the way through.
Yeah.
And some housing. What more do you want? Don't answer that, we haven't got it. Have a great Christmas, mate. Have a great
Where are you from?
We're from the church just up the road.
Okay. Oh, good work.
Bless you.
Yeah, nice.
There you go.
Cool. Ta-da.
and what democracy means to us.
What does it mean to you?
Well, I think that especially, we're talking now just a couple of weeks after Britain, the Parliament made the decision to go to war against Syria. And it was clear from every poll that was carried out that the public did not give consent to begin a new war. After the bloody war of Iraq, there was no appetite, I don't think, among the British population for a new war. After David Cameron gave gave his war speech to try to win support, the YouGov, the poll, showed that actually 5 million less people were in favour of war after that speech. So it clearly they had failed to convince the public that this was a war that they wanted to be had in their name, and yet, very predictably, we're in another war. But the feelings of the people or the consensus of the people were ignored, and I think that that's a familiar story in our society, and certainly in my life, of feeling that the democracy that we're...
It's just there to keep us comfortable thinking that it's a democracy.
Right, it's something, that's exactly it. It's like we're told to be proud of the democracy we live in, and yet all around us I see more and more examples that it's an absolute sham. And there is no real democracy. It seems much more like a corporatocracy. And
what does that mean for people that don't? What's a corporatocracy?
Corporatocracy, if I'm not making the word up, then it means that it's a society that's controlled by the needs of big business rather than the constituents within the country. And I think that we can see countless examples of the way that Bristol's certainly been shaped in the time that I've been here, with the opening up of huge new shopping malls, the Mall and Cabot Circus here, that really, they construct, it's about designing the city in a particular way to meet whose needs. And I think a real democracy would come from the bottom up, come from the grassroots. And would be about people being able to shape their futures and their lives that we have together, rather than be dictated to by the needs of other people wanting to make money from us.
Any thoughts about democracy as well? What do you think it is? What would you like to see from it, etc.?
Well, it's clear about how they deal with the curriculum in the education system, that young people aren't learning skills and young people aren't learning subjects that are really interesting and really that make up.
So like music, for example, you were doing this music course and you felt that it wasn't really about developing your own.
I've been on 2 music college courses, one in London, one in Bristol, and I was quite disappointed because I had all these ideas that would be all about underground, all about positive, progressive, conscious hip-hop, and not just hip-hop, but all eclectic types of music. But instead I found that some of the teachers were guilty of pushing a dream on us, that we should get into the industry, and just the fact that they were saying the word industry and not scene, it felt a bit fake to me, and it didn't feel authentic.
I think that's a much wider problem as well. I mean, we're seeing with the rise in tuition fees and to 9,000 a year from 3,000 a year, that universities are becoming more and more driven by profit and shaping the curriculum so that it does become about education becomes merely a mechanism by which to develop industry rather than to something like music. I mean, is music just about the music industry? I think the music industry is largely responsible for the corrosion of musical expression in our society. So yes, it's a vehicle for sexism and right, exactly.
So what's your hopes and dreams then? Because that's what I'm interested in. Is it's not just existing, right? Not just existing through life and just making enough money to pay the rent. Actually, what would you, if you could do anything, which you can, in the world without having to worry about how you're going to eat tonight or how you're going to pay the rent, how you're going to pay the electric bill, which is looming. That's what I think is ultimately happening, is that people's dreams are being stopped and people are being pushed into systems which don't necessarily meet their dreams, you know. So what are your, as you're 18,
Yeah.
what's your dream? What's your philosophy on life?
I guess the fifth element of hip hop is knowledge, and I think it's the most important element in music. It's knowledge. It's what you represent.
Yeah.
If you're true to yourself, if you know yourself, if you know what's happening around you, if you can, like, at a critical level observe and educate young people, and even if you're young, there's people younger than you that you need to look out for.
Yeah.
And I think my dream, like what I really want to happen, which is, I'm quite pessimistic, it doesn't really, I don't always feel like it's a dream that could happen, but just more youth-led movements, a youth-led movement of music culture,
Yeah.
where you bring all music together, you have festivals, because, you know, Not Kill Carnival,
Yeah.
it's got its roots in resistance, it's full of life. You do get a lot of trap music, you do get a lot of
What's trap music for? Because I don't know what it is. What's trap music?
trap music. It's
Yeah.
like hip hop, it's not hip hop, like
Yeah.
music that is just misogynistic, sexist.
Right.
bullshit.
Right. Okay. Bullshit. The bullshit side of the
Yeah.
industry, as you
Yeah,
called it.
just chicks.
Why are we seeing people sleeping in doorways in the centre of town, whilst five-star hotels with swimming pools on the roof are being built? I know it's a big question, but why do you, what do you
a
think?
question that's, you know, it's symptomatic of the ills of our society, isn't it? Having a society that's based on profit for the rich rather than meeting the needs of people.
Yeah.
And you know, in terms of my hopes and dreams for what I would like to see in Bristol, you know, it's exactly that. It's a city that is focused on meeting people's needs and enabling people to discover, I think at first identify what their hopes and dreams are. I think that they know. So it's great that you're asking that question, because it's something that in our society, I think perhaps we're losing some sight of. Like whether we can, you know. So for me, it's about can we provide the conditions and can we reclaim our power as people and help people to develop their skills, their abilities, their relationships with each other, and build some real strength and resilience in the community at a grassroots level. I think is really important.
The story I've just read this morning in the Bristol Post is that our local council, Bristol City Council, is about to lose £10 million in funding. So if we've seen shit happen on the street now, imagine what we're going to see in the next year. You know what I mean? So £10 million. What I'm suggesting is that the council should be going to central government and saying it's completely, you know,
well, they've got enough
unworkable.
money to drop, you know, bombs on you know, Syria.
Well, that's just to interject then. That's an interesting one, because 5 weeks before the vote on Syria, we had George Osborne, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. I always struggle with that word. Telling us that it's impossible. We have to cut tax credits. That we can't. It's not sustainable. We can't fund that anymore. Yet we spend 186 billion pounds on bombing another country.
That's right.
You know.
Just how corruption.
Yeah. No, that's right. It seems that there's a bottomless pit when it comes to war.
Yeah.
But we're coming up to a winter now where many people can't afford the fuels to heat their homes effectively, and I'm hearing thousands upon thousands of people committing suicide after being declared fit for work when they're clearly not. And it seems that we're living in a bizarrely cruel society now.
That's the other issue. I mean,
Did you hear about elderly people?
Are
going to be charged £26 to be picked up if they fall over in their homes and they need assistance. They're going to be charged for that. This is you know, it's inhuman. It's
fundamentally wrong.
It's really wrong, isn't it? It is. They're taking away people's dignity.
Yeah, that's really. They take away your identity, you charge people
What's that? Say it again, sorry.
Accidents are accidents, and you're taking away people's identity and
Yeah.
making them more like material objects than actual human beings. And that creates violence, that creates upset.
Sure, yeah. What would you like to see? I'm an idealist, what would you like to see in an ideal world? What do you think it's about?
I would like to see young people that have been victims of police brutality educate the police. So I know the police are a strong force that aren't exactly gonna think things are necessarily wrong with them, but obviously blame young people, the marginalised people.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see youth-led organisations create documentaries and screen them in police stations. So actually, you're just...
So you're talking about giving a voice to youth,
giving them power,
so that they're able to talk about and have some voice and power in dialogue. And some power in the world, rather than just be dictated to and told how things are and told that they're problems in society. Why is it always that young people are told that they're the problem, when actually they're being asked to move into a society which doesn't meet their needs at all, doesn't have spaces for young people to grow and develop. And that's what I think we need to be building.
I think the charitable sector and the arts industry, a lot of the time, I love the arts, but you get a lot of the people making the big decisions about programs and all these big things in arts. You get them usually to be white middle class people, and I think now white supremacy is like rife as ever. It's messing up. It's messing up actual culture if you're just having white elitists running the scene when actually it's an industry. Corrupting.
Would you be up for doing some spoken word today on camera?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah? So maybe we'll go in one of the tunnels just so it's a bit quieter, the acoustics might be better.
A generation tweeting in letter limits, capitals and melancholy. Hearts aren't born subjective, but expression gets reflective, connected, misread. It is that we're all saying YOLO, then going solo. We've stopped being gorillas of artists. Tune into Gorilla by Bruno Mars. It's if home is where the heart is, then we're all homesick, wanting X Factor stardom. Russell Brand's cool, the revolution, got us all sharing that video quick. But I can't find the actions, who's using megaphones on street ends making change happen. It's all recent. Who can sleep in a bedroom tax these days that's grabbing Lambeth and poverty deeper into tired struggles? We inhale the veil of sales, let our hearts end up in jail, and we can't breathe it all out in a city of lost blighters. I mean a city of lost hope. Writing on the bloodline, I didn't come dressed up to resist. Pop icons lost their young rebellion to a lifestyle glittered with all things unloved, desperate, famous, memories crammed into Instagram. This generation is the wrecking ball, now you're the talk of the town. But the silence of yourself, the violence of your wealth, I shut my eyes, dream of anything else than this loud silence, this rap dream overused. So I'll just sing along to Lost Generation, and all my feelings might be excused. So I am Hip Hop Magazine. You can follow us on Twitter. I am Hip Hop Mag 1, or on Facebook. I am Hip Hop. I'm bookmagazine.com. We've got a radio show. We've got loads of opportunities for young artists, emerging artists in all the sectors, and yeah, so just check us out.
Great. So I just wanted to talk to you about the cuts to council frontline services as well. I was up at a council meeting, Neville Road, the other night, where the council decided to cut the beds at Bush Respite Care from 14 beds down to 7. So that's 7 families without respite care now, which is flipping that's mental. But basically, what I found out the other night was that, right, so we've got service directors in Bristol, right? So we've got the councillors, we've got a mayor who's elected, and we've got councillors who are also elected to represent the views of the constituents in the city, yeah? But then we've also got his service directors in Bristol.
Yeah.
Nicola Yates, I'm going to name them, Nicola Yates, who's got actually 4 roles in the council, including one for Bristol Green Capital, which we were awarded this year, 2015, Bristol. And then we've got Peter Mann, who's transport boss. He's on. But basically, what my point is, I'll have to name him. Max Wide, who is what is he? Kind of service director of business change, I think was his title. What we worked out was actually these. So there's Nicola Yates and 4 other service directors. These 5 people are on 700k between them a year.
Yeah.
Whilst the respite care has faced cuts, like I say, 14 beds down to 7. Right. We worked out that it would cost about £325,000 to keep those beds open for a year.
Right.
So what I'm interested in is how come we've got money to pay 5 people's salaries whilst frontline essential services are cut in our city?
Yes. Paul, I think that the kind of what is essentially a crime is what you're talking about, has become symptomatic of this society over the last 5 years. I mean, I work within the NHS, where I'm seeing frontline services cut down to the bone, so that there simply aren't enough staff on the wards. Hospitals are becoming dangerous places, and yet the reorganisation of services is involving service managers and so on making massive use of private agencies which charge hugely inflated prices to say cover the cost of a nurse. It might be a couple of £1,000 a night rather than a couple of £100.
Yeah.
And this is becoming more and more widely used, taking up a larger and larger share of the budget, and it just doesn't make sense. It's like they're cutting from the front line, problems are happening, and then they're having to pay 10 times as much to cover it from the private sector. And I can only suspect that actually this isn't all just bad mismanagement, that actually something
Purposely.
This is very seems to me purposely to be a way of damaging the welfare state and the structures that we have, so that we're more open to accepting the privatisation of these services.
Sure. So, do you mind me asking what you do? What's your job in the NHS? What do you do?
Yeah, I'm a support worker, so I work on the front line, and it gives me a really important vantage point on which to see how these services are changing. I'm in contact with the service users every day, and I'm seeing them being treated in conditions which are becoming less and less helpful to them. And likewise, I'm seeing the morale of staff going down, the staff turnover going up, and reorganisation of services which doesn't seem to serve anybody other than the fancies of service managers. In response to the cutting of beds in the Bush Centre, I mean, we can only imagine what the social costs of that are going to be. That's going to be, less respite beds, so more families struggling to cope, so that all of their activity is going to be compromised, because they're going to be unable to go to work. They're going to be unable to maintain their own well-beings when having more pressure to try to care for family members without having sufficient support. It's absolutely disgusting that the people in charge of these services are receiving salaries that are far more than somebody might need, while the people using those services are struggling to get by in terrible conditions with inadequate services.
So what do you think? What can we do about it? Yeah, I know it's a difficult question to ask. Because
Well, it is. Well, I mean, it is and it isn't it? Because it seems so difficult, because we seem so powerless. But at the end of the day, this is the logic of austerity, isn't it? The logic that somehow the country's in debt, and it's all of our responsibility, and we all must suffer and face a future of living in increasingly more difficult conditions. That's the logic of our society, or we're being told by our MPs and by our rulers. And I think the best thing we can do is to reject that logic.
Okay. So the other day you were telling me about your ideas around this Bristol Community Council. What's that about?
So the Community Council grew out of a feeling of outrage, really, after Britain went to war against Syria with very little public support. I felt that this was another example of our rulers, our politicians, not serving the interests of people in this country, but serving the interests of their own ruling classes, because war doesn't, bombing people in other countries isn't helping us. So the Community Council was born really as a way of trying to create a space in which the people of the community and all of us together can try to have a shared voice and gain some social power in which we can influence our local government and the UK government more effectively, because at the moment we're not being listened to.
Sure. So when do these meetings happen? How can people get involved? That sort of thing.
Okay. So this is something that's we're just coming up to Christmas now, the end of 2015.
Yeah.
We're anticipating maybe our first face-to-face meeting will be in January next year. And I'm really excited about it and looking forward to it, because there's a lot of people that have come forward with potentially really interesting contributions. And I hope it's something that as many of us can get involved in as possible, because this is something we can co-create and shape together to give us a shared voice and extra power and control in decision making in Bristol.
So have you got Facebook group,
yes,
Facebook pages?
The Bristol Community Council Facebook page, and hopefully soon, if we can be adding to it with a Bristol Community Council youth-led page as well, to help young people, people under 18, not allowed to vote. The Bristol City Council do have a scheme for young people, but they're for elected leaders of the future. But we're not interested in the leaders of the future. We're interested in
co-organisation.
What's that?
Co-organisation.
And what's that? What does that mean to you?
Co-organisation is working together. It's as simple as that. It's not a difficult concept. Working together, being human to each other, and contributing, sharing what we all have, the skills that we have. So there's a lot of young people there's loads of graffiti artists, there's loads of radio producers, and uniting loads of different, I wouldn't say just artists, but people that have, can I say definite skills? Definite skills will just create sort of a revolution if we want.
Yeah. And what does a revolution mean to you?
Because
what can we expect? What can we expect to see from revolution?
Complete serenity, I'd say. Like no more human injustice, no more bullshit from no more corporations just drowning us in the mainstream. What do you say?
I'd say a more authentic society that meets the needs and the ever richer needs and aspirations of people, rather than the needs of businesses
and white
and our ruling
supremacy
elites.
and its place in the world. So,
Cool.
Yeah.